I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Roll call, Mr. Van Truren.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Present.
Mr. Janik.
Here.
Mr. Dembinski.
Here.
Mr. Wienarski.
Here.
Mr. Nahorn.
Present.
The chair is here. Administration's all here. I have one item on tonight's agenda, A1830, an ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to lease to own the purchase of a 2018 Case 721G loader for the street department, an amount not to exceed $185,000 to come from account 201-6001-5001-52501. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. This is a piece of machinery that the whole city gets to use, but it's basically used in the street department for loading our salt and gravel and things like that. The street department uses once in a while. One of the other departments might get a little bit of use out of it when they have a water project or something. They need some dirt hauled or some gravel moved from one spot to another. The machine we have is over 20 years old, and working with salt, it's pretty wore out. The mechanics that we have that work for the city do a very good job at deciding when a piece of machinery is at its point in life where we're actually spending more money on maintenance than we are on than if we just bought a new one. There's quite a few options, lease to own. We did this with an electric vehicle a few years ago. Interest rates vary a little bit. Typically right now they're right around 3%. I like about a four-year option. It allows us to spread the money out just a little bit. I've made it a practice, even though this is for the street department and the street levy tax could purchase this, I've been trying to buy things out of the regular street department fund and save those street levy tax dollars to actually repair roads with. So I'm not buying this equipment with that money. There is a couple of these small options on the second page. This wasn't printed in color, so I'm going by memory, so I wouldn't want to say, but they're very minor expenses for the options. I think one of them was mirrors and some other the small dollar items that the options don't add up to very much. The one thing that our mechanics and our street garage people like is the automatic grease dispenser. So as the machine's working, the most important maintenance portion of one of these vehicles is keeping all the bearings greased, so this would automatically do it. That's almost a $10,000 option, but they really told me this is really beneficial to our equipment. If you have any questions, this is the other one's going in on trade-in, and I think they're actually giving us a really good trade for as old as that piece of equipment is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this state minimum?
This is the state purchasing program, so it's through whatever company that the state has worked with. Again, that base price is somewhere, $12,000 less than what you're seeing, plus some interest is in that money. So it's a good price if you compared it to what the average person could go out and buy one of these machines for. And then if possible, just think about the salt season. It's hot today, but winter's coming, and one of our assets of getting our streets salted is having a good piece of equipment to load it up with. So if we take the regular route, 3 readings and 30 days, and the amount of time it takes to order one of these, we might not make the salt season. So if you could just maybe consider emergency, and then I can check on when these pieces of machinery are available. Maybe go a couple readings or even all 3 readings with the emergency would sure help get that piece of equipment a little sooner. Because I do understand it's a lot of money, so please just consider that.
The other question I had on that was, since this is state pricing, is this the only distributor that could offer this? I mean, this is in Brunswick and Cuyahoga County and not Lorain County. I mean, is there one down in Wellington?
I think when you win a state bid, it's who has a state bid. I don't think we can get it anywhere else.
Okay, so then when it comes state bid, there's only certain distributors that will actually pick up that state bid.
I think so, but I can check, and guaranteed if Lorain County was available, I'm sure we would have looked at that.
Would have seen it. Okay, perfect. That just answered my question. Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Dembinski?
Thank you. I had actually had 3 questions. The mayor already answered one of them about if we're trading in or selling the previous piece, so thank you. The second one was actually about state purchasing, which Mr. Miller asked, so thank you about that. The third one, though, So when we purchased the Caterpillar excavator earlier this year, is there any, instead of a case model, if we had purchased a Caterpillar model for this loader, is there any economies of scale that we could benefit by having like manufacturer, all of our equipment match?
I don't think so. Like the excavator, I doubt even if it was like match, I mean, it's two completely separate, different, I doubt there's very many interchangeable parts on the mini excavators compared to this big piece of equipment. Maybe if they were more similar, yeah, but honestly, then if they were more similar, we probably wouldn't need two of them. Because we're pretty versatile, like I said, with the departments sharing equipment when another department needs it.
And actually, that's kind of what I thought, but I figured I would
Yep,
ask the question.
I don't think these two pieces of equipment would be similar enough to worry about that.
And then one general comment, I looked at some of the specs, and while it's not our intention, this equipment is EPA Tier 4 emission compliant, so we're actually also helping, emission standards in the environment and whatnot by upgrading, so just making that out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dembinski. Mr. Van Turen.
Would you anticipate this to last as long as the last loader?
And honestly, maybe with the automatic greasing thing, maybe even longer. I mean, just depending on the life of the salt, and because salt does make a lot of wear on these pieces of equipment. So I can't imagine it lasting less.
The amount of responsibilities that the street department has now, do you anticipate we ever need more than just one new loader, or is that looking too far out of the future?
I don't think so. I've actually considered keeping the other one and thinking about maybe having salt at 2 different locations. But even if that was the case, that piece of equipment is pretty roadworthy, and we could get it from one place. The city's not so big, we can't take that piece of equipment where we need it, when we need it. So I hope not in my time, but it's a possibility.
Great. I would move to send this on for council with the emergency as requested.
Thank you.
Mr. Janik,
I'll second that with comment.
continue.
I see that Mr. Barnes mentioned it's been almost 20 years since the last one that we purchased. Do we have any idea what we spent the last time on one of these? Or?
I don't, and I looked at, I've got, I usually do like most anybody else and Google the stuff and get online and look. Even used ones from 2014 with, 2,000 and 3,000 hours on it, $160,000, $170,000, some of them generally around 150,000. So, I mean, this is brand new, and we're getting it for a used price with quite a bit of accessories and the $10,000 grease portion. So, it is a good price. But I have no idea what we paid 20 years ago.
But you can attest to the fact that we definitely.
We got our money's worth.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Patek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The warranty information, warranty's included,
Yes.
and there's not a separate line item for that
I
cost?
think he just added that to show how good the warranty is.
Okay. And then sales tax? Or
We don't pay sales tax.
Okay.
We send the tax exempt form with it when we pick these
And
up.
then the trade-in value?
That was taken off of the,
So that it's lumped in with the base machine and the STS price? I'm just trying to account for the line item prices on this, and I just curious.
somewhere it should say $15,000 off, and maybe it's not been figured out. And that's an up to, I figured worst case scenario, so we'll probably be keeping some of that money.
Yeah, I just didn't see it, so I didn't know if the
So it
185, if that
it
would
might
be
be below
reduced
that.
by. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, there's a motion to take A 1830 to the floor of council with the emergency. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 7-0. That's all I have tonight. Mr. Dembinski.
Move to adjourn.
We have a second. Finance item?
We don't have a second on that yet.
Never mind. Sorry.
Mr. Weinarski.
I'll second.
Different committee.
All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We stand adjourned at 7:11.
We can start adjourn, right?
Why did I see a second finance? And good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Building and Lands Committee meeting. Tonight's topic is to amend 1145.14B. It has to do with off-street parking and loading. We have with us the building inspector, Mr. David McCartney. Welcome. And I'll turn it over to the administration if you want to open this up, and then I'd like to have Mr. McCartney come to the podium and talk, and we'll field questions at that time, please.
Sure. Well, thanks for bringing this back to committee so quickly. We really appreciate it. There's quite a bit of discussion last year, mostly around what a dustless surface was and what a concrete's made. So there was quite a few questions I brought back and asked the building department, and our law department worked together and came up with this revision. And I hope you have color copies, and it shows the changes that we made. So maybe Mr. McCarty could come up and answer any questions you have.
Please do.
Good evening, everybody. As the mayor just stated, I understand this was before this committee back on June the 4th. It was a fairly, it was designed to be a simple modification at that time, and that was on purpose. But I understand that there were some questions that came up. I did not watch the meeting back, so I do not know all of the questions that came up. I can give some background as to why this has come about. If you guys would like a little bit of background on the reason that we're looking to amend the ordinance. I don't know if it was discussed a couple weeks ago or not. These changes are specific to residential properties. Over the last couple of months, we've had it in front of the planning commission where residential property owners wanted a second driveway at their homes. Currently, we consider that whether there's an actual curb or not, curb cut, it goes through the planning commission. Sometimes it creates some congestion. It didn't seem like that was necessarily the best route to go. So we decided that we were going to make some changes to what actually constitutes a valid parking surface. Now, the parking surface and the definitions would be for all zone properties, whether it be commercial, residential, industrial. Currently, it reads that the parking surfaces would be an all-weather dustless surface, which is open to some interpretation, which we've also run into in the past. I believe when that was passed back in 2006, that was in an effort to keep people from just dumping gravel in their front yards just to park out. So what we decided to do and propose was actually strengthening the definitions of those. So in addition to the changes that are being proposed for 1145, we have also gone back into the definition section in 112107 and added a couple of definitions and changed one grammatical error in that with the renumbering. So that is where we are at this evening. We've defined driveway, we've defined driveway apron. We've clarified what a parking space is. The only change that I would probably garner some additional discussion is that we have two definitions of the size of what a parking space is. We have a 9 by 19 space and we have a 200 square foot space. So I would prefer that we keep the 9 by 19 space as kind of the minimum because that goes along with our commercial zoning and plan. So that's really the only extra that didn't make it into this. So with that, I will entertain questions. Anybody has questions?
I guess I'll start it off if there's no one raising their hand here. Are you asking that we modify item line number 31 from 200 square foot to 9 by 19 space? That would be a minimum of 9 by 19 space, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is what we use. If anybody's coming in on planning commission, we use that 9 by 19 space as a minimum parking space size. So just for consistency, unless the law department feels like that creates more confusion, it would just make things more consistent.
Okay. What's the law department's opinion and the admin's opinion?
I think I'm okay with that. Frank, do you have any objections?
No, it's 171 square feet by the way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, it's open.
If you have a garage of only that many square foot, you're gonna be able to get in and out of your car.
Well, the garage, they kind of define separately as
So-
a garage parking area, and that's listed specifically.
Okay.
So I guess, if it's listed specifically as a garage, I think 200 square feet is appropriate. But as a general definition of the parking space, I think that it should be consistent with what we currently use in our plan.
All right, thank you.
Okay, as I look at other, is there anything else you wanted to see amended or would recommend having modified?
Not at this time. I mean, not from what we had changed. Like I said, this was originally designed just to be kind of a basic change. But then the question of what dustless and appropriate means came up, so we decided to actually define what the lighting was.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. McCartney, are we having issues right now with people parking vehicles off of their driveways?
We do. We have people that are parking in the yard. We have people who, from time to time, are putting down some gravel along the side of their driveway. So that is an ongoing issue.
So they can park RVs, campers, boats, whatever. And
That's
things
correct.
like that. And then, and I know we've had some people bring that to my attention, that we have a lot of cars that are sitting without registry, or
Correct. That is a separate item, not specifically
Right.
related to this, and we have some other things that we're looking at.
with those as well. Amend this, okay, so this is the first step in trying to solve the issue that we're seeing.
That's correct. We're
Okay.
looking to define what a parking space is via asphalt, concrete, or a commercial grade paver that's
Mhm.
installed for the manufacturer's specifications to make sure it can hold the weight of the vehicle.
And if you want to store a vehicle that's not being used, then you need to move it into a garage or some, into a storage area, and that's what we're shooting for, correct?
That is correct.
Perfect. And that 9 by 19 is not going to reduce the 200 inside?
Not for a garage.
Not for garage,
actual-
only for outside surface?
That's correct.
Perfect. Thank you. No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Van Turen, did you have your hand up?
I did not.
Okay. Any further questions? Mr. Nahorn?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know there are a number of driveways throughout town that are currently gravel.
Correct.
And then also some parking spaces, such as the Historical Society, for example. How would this change affect those?
It is our intended policy as well as our current policy that if you have a gravel driveway and you properly maintain it, which means you dress it with stone every couple of years so it's not growing with weeds, that, without specifically being spelled out as an exemption,
Right.
it's not anything that we go after. I mean, there are certain parameters in the property maintenance code, even the current one that we have, that we can address those items. But currently, as we would tend to do in the future, is if you have an existing gravel driveway or parking lot, and if you properly maintain it, there will be an issue.
Okay, I didn't know if specifically we wanted to get into that and
Ideally,
mention that.
Ideally, we would like to go and have everybody convert over,
Right.
but that's not always realistic,
Right.
so.
I just didn't know if, this would create an issue if the law department thinks that would be something that would,
That would
or
be-
is it just a
No,
grandfather?
I think that this would, it'd be a prospective application of this ordinance.
This would also allow, if somebody came in with a unique type of a parking surface, if they chose and they wanted to put something different in, this would trigger an application to the Board of Zoning Appeals and where they could go and ask.
Yeah,
for
okay,
that.
Right, more permeable
That's correct.
surfaces. and things. Okay, thank you.
That's all, Mr. Nahorn?
Yes, that's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll start with a few questions. Could you expand upon Mr. Nahorn's question, the answer to Mr. Nahorn's question, why we, because I'm thinking beyond, for example, the Historical Society is the big one that jumps out at me, all gravel parking. I go to St. Joe's, road grindings are used for parking at the fields as well as the junior high. How does this make it apparent to anyone? Big issue we have in town is people get upset with each other and they call the building department trying to get the other person in trouble. How does this prevent someone from getting a visit from the police or the building department?
Well, I think without researching it to a greater degree, but I think the concept of a non-conforming use would come into play. That if you had something that was permitted at the time there was a change in the zoning ordinance or
some other ordinance that then prohibited what you have a right to continue that use. So I think that's the best answer I can give.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for clarifying. Alrighty. Yeah, looking at letter A, and it reads, the Amherst codified ordinances, all vehicles shall be properly parked in a driveway. Thinking people that have boats on trailers that they're parking on grass, is that included in this, or?
Not in this.
Yes.
There's currently an exemption, which we had come through a couple of years ago for recreational vehicles, trailers and things like that. So this change does not address that, but there are some things that are being worked on to present to council in the not too distant future that would address recreational vehicles, RVs, boat trailers, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Bear with me here. Squirrel grindings, 20 square feet. That's all of my questions. Thank you. With that, maybe entertain a motion, unless there's more questions.
Do we have to amend 31?
I would ask that we include that
So I
in the
think
motion.
we move to amend definition 31
From 200 square feet to a
from
19
200
by
square
9
feet
9
to
by
a parking
19.
space means a 9 by 19 minimum parking,
Okay.
exclusive of drivers or access.
Mr. Calgar?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to amend line 31. That modifies 200 square feet to a 9 by 19 space. Any comment on that? Mr. Dembinski?
9 by 19 minimum space.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Definition. Thank you. All right, there's no more comments or anything like that. I'll, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against, say nay. Okay, the modification passes 7-0. Sorry, I'll be right back. Mr. Dembinski?
Move to send A 1829 to the floor of council as amended.
Mr. Miller?
Second, please.
With that, we have a motion and a second to send this to the floor of council. Any comment? With none, I'll just take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against say nay. Passes 7-0. Mr. Dembinski.
Move to adjourn.
Mr. Calgar.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against say nay. We are adjourned at 7:25.